Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. LJ here, the Go Biz Guy, podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Today, the podcast is brought to you in part, by Focus Marketing Company. Focus Marketing Company is more than just a marketing agency. They're your partners in success. Your goals are their focus. Whether you're looking to increase sales, build your brand, or connect with your audience, they've got you covered. They're talented. Believe me, they are talented. Experienced team specializes in social media evaluations, video production. Oh, unbelievable video. Strategic planning, marketing campaigns, development, and more. Choose Focus Marketing today, where your goals are their focus. Visit them online today at focusmco.com, focusmco.com, and let them turn your vision into reality. All righty. Today we've got an amazing guest. I'll tell you what, I'm I wouldn't consider myself a music buff, but I love music, and I had a dream the other night that I was like Garth Brooks, and I was swinging down from the
Mhm.
pendulum and everything an audience. So I am that way. But today we have an amazing guest. He is located in Nashville, Tennessee, home of the music capital of the world. And he's got quite a bio. And what I think I'll do is he's worked with Hannah Montana and some other things. I just want to go like kind of down the list and talk to him a little bit as we kind of get this thing going. But today, I want to introduce to you my friend Stephen Salyer. Stephen, welcome aboard.
Hey, friend, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So let me ask you something about you grew up. Where'd you grow up at?
Yeah, so I was born in Catlettsburg, Kentucky. Well, I was born at KDMC in Ashland, but my family is all in Catlettsburg. And so that's where I spent my childhood life. And then I went to Marshall University. And then in 2005, I jumped and moved to Nashville for a record deal.
Okay, well now you're jumping way ahead of my question. So, well,
Yeah.
listen, let me ask you something. That's okay, man. It doesn't matter. What'd your parents do in Catlinsburg? What was their profession?
That's a great question. So, my dad worked for Mansback Metal in Ashland, and my mom was a title clerk. And they met, well, when I was born, she was 18 and he was 19 years old. So
Okay.
I always say I helped raise them, if you will. They met working at Craycraft Foodland in Catlettsburg. And then, yeah, she was 18 when I was born. He was 19.
Oh
So
wow.
her birthday's 4 days after mine. And
Dang.
so she turned 19 with a newborn, and this newborn with this big light to bring into the world. And it has been this challenging, complex, and rewarding relationship with me and my parents over the last 40 years.
Okay. All right. And let me just say this, man. I mean, to live in Catlinsburg and Kentucky, I grew up in Ventura, California, which is a whole different genre. And and but let me ask you something about Catlinsburg, Kentucky. Were there possums there? I,
Okay,
I
now
don't I
you're
don't know
just
what
triggering me
I
at this
don't know
point.
whether there's possums there or not. I just asked the
Yes,
question.
okay. Okay, so you're connected to someone who knows a lot of history about my history with possums. Yes, there were possums there, and this is why I'm terrified of possums. And my dear friend of over 30 years, Morgan, will tell you that like the reason I'm terrified of possums is a couple reasons. One is I remember like when we lived in a single wide trailer when I was just a kid.
Hmm.
There was a dead possum. My dad took a shovel, got it up, and it opened its mouth. It was alive. You know, this was like when I was 7 years old. And then later when we moved into Catlettsburg, there was a lady who worked at Foodland, and a possum, as she was coming home from work one night, crawled up her pants leg and bit her on the stomach. And she had to have like this, foot long needle, to check rabies for that possum. So I have been terrified of possums my entire life,
Okay.
um, in rats. But
Okay.
it's stuff that I've unpacked during therapy. I will tell you that.
That's so funny. I mean,
Yeah,
animals have an effect on us. I mean, I've never been
truly.
bit. Well, I don't know. I've been bit because I play rough with my dogs. I have three of them,
Right.
and then and I've always been a rescue guy for rescuing dogs, but I've never been bit
Mhm.
by something. But I have a friend of mine. He's a doctor friend of mine. Just as a sidebar, we call him Doctor Doolittle because he's had big snakes. He's got 7 or 8 dogs. He's got chickens. And but one of the nice things about him, he'll have possums come up to his place and eat out of his hand. Okay, I mean, so I think he's
Wow.
a possum whisperer. Okay, and
Nope. No, thank you.
well, okay, maybe you could work with him and get some therapy. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I don't know about that. Yeah.
Okay, so listen. Okay, so you grew up in Catlinsburg, and and I
Mhm.
think were your parents musically inclined?
They were not. But if you looked on the family tree line, like my uncle Bill, who is my grandma Connie's brother, who died of alcoholism, he was actually the valedictorian at Marshall University.
Oh,
But like
wow.
he toured with Willie Nelson,
Ah,
and so like I have his record, and then my aunt Margaret, who's still my favorite aunt, who lived in Milton, West Virginia, and now resides in Texas. She's always sang. She has a beautiful sort of like Karen Carpenter voice.
okay.
So that is sort of the only ties that I have to music that like lent to where I'm at,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I wouldn't say distinctly that they were the reason that I'm in Nashville or doing all the things I'm doing, but certainly that is sort of, if there's any roots in my family that tie to music, they certainly have contributed to that.
I tell you what, I'm not a like I said, I'm not a how do I put myself? I love music. I don't like opera. Um, I grew up in
Mhm.
California
Why?
I don't know. Probably because I don't understand Latin, and
Okay.
Tracy, she kind of likes it, but I just don't have an
Sure.
appreciation for it. But that's the only genre that I can't really hold my feet to. And it's kind of
Mhm.
crazy. But so the other thing of it is, growing up in California, I surfed a little bit. I fought a little bit. I was kind of a rough kid. And we hung our hat on Led Zeppelin and Frank Zappa, Jimi Hendrix.
Mhm.
And so that kind of dates me to say the least. But when you take a look at music, I think music evolves. And I think sometimes it starts to repeat itself through history. What do you think?
Mhm. No, I completely agree with that. And, Um, I think that there are like timeless songs and timeless artists, like when I was a kid, and as I said earlier, and I've dealt with a lot of this with my therapy over the years, but like my mom was always chasing my dad and hunting him down. And so like while she was gone chasing him down,
Yeah.
I would learn about CDs of Prince and Aerosmith and Whitesnake and Hank Williams Jr.
Okay.
and
I love it.
and so I sort of discovered music on my own while my family was like chasing out their own trauma, if you
Yeah. Yeah.
will,
Right.
and so
Uh-huh.
it helped me discover. I remember listening to Alanis Morissette first record. I
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
remember
She's good.
listening
Yeah.
to
Uh-huh.
the Black Crowes first record. I remember like picking up the Prince CD and being like, "What? Who is this? What is he? Or what is this?" And it informed a lot of things for me. And then I had grandparents that would take me to concerts like Chubby Checker at Summer Motion
Oh,
in
really? Chubby
Nashland.
checkers,
And I would
man.
see
Wow.
Chubby Checker, yeah. And I would see him doing the twist on stage and be like, I don't know what that is, but I want to do that.
Okay.
And my grandfather would take me to see, would just take me to concerts, and see George Clinton, in the Parliament. And when I was just a young kid, and it
Okay.
was informing who I was going to be, and also, Lauren, that like being from Catlettsburg, being from the Ashland area, it was the country music haven of the
Yes.
world, really.
Yeah.
But I have such a big soul. My voice is so soulful. that it doesn't really all make sense how I've gotten to this point, except for that I was exposed to this music of George Clinton and Chubby Checker and taking to concerts and having my own experience and allowing them to inform who I am becoming, you know? And I remember years ago in like 2017, I was a minority in my band. All of them were black, with the
Okay.
exception of my band leader.
Okay.
And I texted my grandfather and I said, I need to thank you. And he said, why? And I said, I need to thank you because I'm in a room of 500 people every night. And I'm the minority in my group.
I love it.
And I need to thank you for exposing me to your brothers who work with you as iron workers at Ashland Oil and who became my uncles, and how you would expose me to Clarence Carter and George Clinton and Stevie Wonder and helped inform my heart for good music, you know, even from a small town. You
Yeah,
know, it has
right.
informed
Yeah.
who I have become, you know. So yeah, I think music is it's timeless, and that's the gift, especially in a climate of political decisiveness. You know,
Thank you.
that music
Yeah,
all connects
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Yeah,
We don't want to go
for
there,
sure.
but I tell you what, I mean,
No, we won't.
music. I tell you what, I have just, music makes me dance, and it moves me a little bit, and I'm that guy that if you see it on Hitch, that I'm the guy that's being taught how to dance because I don't know how to dance that well. Okay,
Mhm.
when Tracy and I met, we went dancing our first date, and I'm telling you what, I've always loved music, and I just have an
Mm.
appreciation for someone like yourself and
Mhm.
your grandfather, and I think that's so important. So anybody that wants to be in music, that's listening today, it's not whether or not your mom and dad, okay, is musically inclined. It's what your heart's
Sure.
telling you to do. Okay.
Mm.
And I
Mhm.
and I and I think if people would listen more to their heart, they would understand the direction that somebody like your grandfather is taking you in, and then you have
Yeah.
an appreciation. I mean, I think I worked for a web company. I sold websites for a good friend of mine, and he's got a very successful business now. And maybe I contributed to that by selling $10,000 worth of websites. But at any rate,
Mm.
so I think that he would always hire these people that were musically inclined. Okay. And data is based on
Mhm.
zeros and ones, and notes and music is based on, you know, basically the same format. And so what he
Right.
did is he built a sound booth, and they would go in there, saxophone player, they were, all guitar, they would go in there and jam. Okay. Then they would come out and be
Right.
creative and build websites. Okay. So,
Mhm.
music has such a play in people's hearts. I mean, I honestly enjoyed God Bless America that you sang.
Mm. Thank you.
I mean, it was what it was at the Nissan Stadium.
It was at Nissan Stadium. Yeah.
Who played? What football teams played?
Okay, so that was Maryland. Um, I cannot remember the other team now that
So
escapes my mind.
let me tell you something, but man,
But
dude. So how do you feel about that, man? I mean, I told
well,
he's throwing up his arms, man. He's got it's into his soul and everything. God bless America, and I know how you won a competition or what. It doesn't make any difference. There were
mm,
people in that stadium.
yeah. So thank you for asking that, and I'm so grateful to hear that was your experience of that. But I'll tell you, like my life changed in October and up until now, and I knew that I was sort of having this moment of um, ascending, like everything was changing at the end of my 40th year of life in a way that like I watched it. Like I performed at TPAC, Tennessee Performing Arts Center, and then the next week I had that final audition where over 500 people had sent in videos to sing at
Yeah.
Nissan Stadium, and I ended up winning. And as I left the venue that day, I knew in my heart, like, Stephen, like, you have been scheduled for this moment, like to sing this song in the stadium, for you to stir hearts from your own stirred heart.
Oh,
You were
that
going
gives
to
me
step onto
goosebumps,
that
brother. We
field.
talk about like
Yeah,
that,
no,
man.
I
Yeah.
knew that in my heart. It wasn't about the song or my voice. It was, I was scheduled to walk onto that field and sing that song and stir hearts and remind them of the hope and the possibility that exists for our country
Oh,
and
brother.
in that song in our hearts.
Yeah.
And so when I walked on that field, like honestly, Lauren, like the only thing I was nervous about was like I had to cut it down to it had to be underneath 1 minute because the flyover.
Okay.
So
All right.
they timed me when I rehearsed to make sure I was under 1 minute, you know. So I was not nervous about the notes or the song. I had rehearsed the arrangement I did. I was just more nervous that like for TV, like it had to be under 1 minute.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But when I walked onto the field, like my full body had this zing of goosebumps, knowing that like, dude, you have been assigned to sing this song today. And just know that like it's going to do more beyond what you even can imagine, you know? And it has, you know,
Yeah.
like it has continued to do that over and over. But it reminds me of the power of our dream and the
Yeah.
power of
Right.
each of us
Yeah.
when we show up to life, you know? You know, so many people, Lauren, want the platform of a career or their professional sort of moment in the spotlight, but they want it without the process. And for me, it has been a dream that has been a process of showing up and being disappointed and being obedient to my call of this dream
Yeah.
that ultimately has given me a voice and has given me songs and every other sort of umbrella of branch, if you will, that has led me to this point.
See, and it's a God thing, and
It is.
I just good, bad, or indifferent, God has a plan for all of us. And I think you go back to your grandfather, and he stirred your heart, and you've not watered that in a negative sense. You have watered it to grow your seed from your heart in order to be expressive. I don't, I got to say that it had to be a real transition for you to go from Catlettsburg, aka Ashland area, to a very competitive environment of Nashville, okay,
Sure.
without any connections. Maybe you had connections before you went, but I've been to Nashville several times and I've noticed a couple of things. I noticed that crime is well managed there, okay?
It
And
is.
I've
It is.
also, they come out of the woodwork and take people in their cars and zoom because it's a tourist attraction.
Right.
But I saw so many people on the street playing their heart out, and that's
They
maybe
were
as good
talented.
is maybe good as it gets in Nashville for
Yeah.
them, right?
Yeah.
And
For sure.
so how did you make the transition from Ashland, Kentucky to Nashville,
Sure.
settled in? What was your plan?
That's so great. Thanks. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. I will tell you, I moved to Nashville when I was 20, turning 21. So in 2005. And I moved here with there was a record deal on the table with Warner Brothers.
Oh, wow.
But that was never supposed to be mine. It was like I came here for the dream, and then life sort of happened, and so I found myself sort of in this roller coaster of you know living life and moving here and having this opportunity, and yet I was still like traveling back to Ashland to perform and stuff,
Okay.
and I stopped performing in Ashland in like 2016 when I realized like it was no longer feeding me,
Right.
like
Yeah.
that it wasn't that like I was giving up on the dream. It was like I had to pull my energy and time out of what I had always known to be, you know, the projection of my life. There was a day I spent as an event manager because I worked in event and tourism marketing here in the city for
Oh,
8 years.
wow. Okay.
There was a day I spent with Little Richard for 8 hours,
Oh,
he and I.
dang. Wow.
And he told, I was warned, like, Stephen, he is very difficult. He is very extreme to deal with. And when I showed up to meet him that day, all I found was myself in conversation with him. And he's
Okay.
like, he called me baby boy, and
Uh,
he was like, Kentucky. He was like, can I call you Kentucky or baby boy? I was like, call me whatever you want. I'm here to work.
all right.
And he said, Stephen, black people didn't like my music. White people did because I was rock and roll. And so he sort of unpacked his story and allowed me to be like the student, if you will,
Okay.
that had an opportunity and a role that I was working for my day-to-day job that day to hear him. And so, Lauren, I have found that, like, my Nashville journey, and it will be on January 15th, 19 years I've been in
Oh,
Nashville,
wow.
which
Congrats.
is
Yeah.
remarkable. And I've always thought I would leave Nashville, but I had a moment with a psychic in November, and I'm not leaving Nashville. Like, I definitely am going to be in LA and New York and such, but like, this is my home.
Right.
But Little Richard sort of taught me that, like, you know, it looks like this, and the truth is this: like, your music and your passion and your inspiration speak to all. And he was so extreme in his, like, visual, aesthetic, if you will. And it mirrored for me, what was possible for me. And also to know that, like, I came to Nashville, honestly, to get a record deal in country music,
Right.
but that was never my end all be all, if you will. Like, I'm here, like, I'm a pop singer that is sort of, celebrated and hired for by songwriters all over the world. And also that, like, I was doing philanthropic work. I was performing. I was, being this creative entrepreneur, like, on the ground, even though that, like, I came to Nashville in 2005 to pursue this country record deal, which honestly, like, would have never played out, if you will.
Here's
So,
you know what, dude, I'm telling you what, here's what entrepreneurs get a hold of. Okay. I think some people get into business because they can sell pencils, right? And maybe they're good people. I don't know. I mean, they get along well with people. But I think the most successful entrepreneurs that I've interviewed um, have behind them passion, as you indicated. And I think when we make that
mhm,
switch over, okay, I mean, I've had failures of businesses, I've had successes of businesses. And so I understand the upload of emotion, the download, the uprising of success. And so it's all over the place. And I think
right.
entrepreneurs do have to chase their dream, but they also have to have an element of faith. And I think once they have
Mm,
an element of faith along with that passion, I think a lot of things can happen for them. And I think that entrepreneurs, and you have a great story because, see, I left California not having a
mhm,
job. I went to college, and it was all by faith. I traveled 3,000 miles to go to college, okay?
mm,
Because I had a bad, kind of not a really good family life, and I just wanted to change. And so I ended up going to Liberty University. Took
mhm,
17 hours of hours. I worked 40 hours a week. Yada yada yada. Okay, but
mhm.
I'm telling you what, I think that when you take a look at entrepreneurship, I think the key ingredient, and you've learned it. It comes from your heart because there is no easy road to success.
Right,
I mean, who knows? In the next 5 years, you could get that deal. Okay, I mean, you could get
right,
that record deal. You don't know that.
right.
I mean, you have
No,
your own
no.
clothing store, right? Or is it online? Or tell us a little
It's
bit about that
online. It's
clothing
on
store.
Instagram. Yeah, and I will just tell you, the dream is not microwavable. You cannot put this into the microwave and,
Nope.
like, bake it to, like, get to this point. And it is trial and error. It is
Yes.
effort and grace over and over and over. It is true amazing grace, getting lost to be found.
Right. Right.
And
Yeah.
as a dreamer, it is the pursuit of that. To step toward our destiny, we have to step away from our security.
Oh yeah.
And so when I moved to Nashville, like, it has been like I had to have a job in order to pay the bills. I, like, had to do all these things until it did not no longer serve. And I will tell you, I'm going to sign a publishing deal in February of this
Oh, I
year
love it.
where I'm writing songs. I'm writing songs full time. I wrote to tracks for Usher, the artist,
Oh my gosh.
the week of Christmas. 5 tracks for Usher, the week of Christmas. And
Dang,
I would have
brother.
never experienced that. Yeah. And that doesn't mean he's going to cut them, but I'm saying that
Yeah.
like had I not gone to New York, I would not have been met this opportunity. And when I went to New York, I was like singing my own songs for this AI company in London. I mean, like every little breadcrumb leads you to the next possibility.
It does.
And
Yeah.
that is the life of a dreamer. That is the
Yes.
life of like pursuing and to know that like my heart, friend, is my joy and my freedom just being me, doing what I came here to do.
All right.
And that informs who I'm becoming. That informs like everything I'm building to birth, if you will,
But
Um,
but stop and think about it, man. I mean, you've been there 19 years, okay? A lot of people would
I'm
quit.
still not at everybody.
People would There's a lot of people that would quit, come back to Ashland and work at
Yeah.
I don't know, work at a restaurant or something and make tips.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so entrepreneurship is not an easy thing. It's
Yeah.
I mean, the people that I have interviewed, you talk to their story and everything, and I mean, I've got a publisher that I'm going to be interviewing in South Africa not too long, and I mean, she's got quite a story too. But the deal of it is that each person is unique because I think God has a plan for each person, as I mentioned. But I think
Absolutely.
also that we take on that because of a grandfather that gave us a passion. And you know what? I think
Mm-hmm.
I go back to the influencers of our life. You had kind of a
Mm-hmm.
cruddy thing with your parents and everything, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
understandable.
Still do.
Yeah, okay, but still, that has a place in motivation, okay? Because it says,
Right.
I'm going to do better because my parents suck. you know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
Right.
because
Yeah.
I had a terrible, we had I don't know, what do you call a family that's all messed up?
Dysfunctional.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So I'll tell you what, every family has that. Okay. And they want
Mm-hmm.
to rush it under the rug, but they don't want to let it motivate them to do better things. So you stop and think
Mm-hmm.
about people like Usher, or you stop and think about,
Yeah.
um, you know, uh,
Little Richard.
yeah, Little Richard. You stop and think about Tim McGraw. You
Yeah.
acted with him, Hannah Montana. I mean, all these people
Yeah.
that you've had interchangeables with. I mean, they all have had tremendous bad backgrounds, and
For
I
sure.
and I
For
think it's
sure.
I don't think it's like there's no cookie cutter for a successful musician. I think I
Mm-hmm.
watched The Idol, okay, and I watched The Voice,
Yeah. Of course. I
and,
love The Voice,
yeah, I love The Voice too. I mean, the guy that
even
won,
though they've turned me down many times.
did they really?
Yeah, but that's not my journey.
No, it's not. No, and yeah, but here's the deal: that
Yeah.
guy that just won, man, I tell you what, I knew he's going to win. I mean, so,
Yeah.
but I get to the cream of the crop. It's not easy to position yourself into music. You
Yeah.
look at Kelly Clarkson. You look at all these
Sure.
all these people, but then I don't know. I mean, they're people, right? And I think good
Right.
strategies for entrepreneurs is to be a good people person. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and I think you have those qualities, and I think you've used those
Thank
over the
you.
years. I mean that's so impressive that you've worked with Little Richard and
Yeah.
you threw some songs to. I mean,
And Dolly Parton. Like, I mean, I've written with Florida Georgia. Like, I've done.
gosh, wow,
If you look at my resume, like, it would not make sense. And I spent. There was a Thanksgiving I spent with Gavin DeGraw and his family. Just because like he felt connected to me,
okay,
and I didn't go back to Ashland. He was like, "Hey, do you want to come spend Thanksgiving with my family?" I was like, "Sure." And so now we're dear friend.
yeah,
And he's just another version of me. Just happen to
uh-huh.
have a lot of millions of records.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I just try to live an inspired life, Lauren. And everything I do as I go, it's effort and grace, step by step. You know, I don't try to dismiss any opportunity. I don't try to dismiss any person. I am living from this inspired place, and I know that it's informing who I am becoming.
Yeah, right.
And so
Yeah.
everything I've dreamed about as a little boy, like Grammy Awards, Super Bowl stage, like all those things are happening.
Yeah.
It is just me being obedient to the moment.
Yeah. No, and I think you're spot
Yeah.
on because in entrepreneurship, you have to have not a gut feeling, but you have to have, like when
Yeah.
I had my coffee business and everything, um, I love coffee. And so I thought, well, I'll start an online coffee business. And it started from the back porch with a friend of mine. We had a cup of coffee and he said, let's start a business. I said, well, okay, we'll do that. And so we had a good, successful run at it. But I think that as I planned it, I had a full time job. I was generating close to $1.5 million in revenue for a marketing
Right.
company, and so then I was doing my coffee business, and so I wasn't focused on. I was focused on a lot of stuff, but anyway, I'm a good multitasker. But I think in
Mm,
all that stuff, I was able to like flip a switch and
sure.
move around a little bit with the business just because, and I will go to my grave being an entrepreneur. Okay. I mean,
Wow.
it is just in my DNA. And I
Sure.
think entrepreneurs have it because
What a
I,
gift.
I, I think, I think it's just,
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's a gift of mine or what, but if you give me an idea, I'd probably give it to market and I will give you a manufacturer to do that stuff. Okay. And
Well,
so,
it's a creek to the creative
okay.
mind.
All
When you
right.
have this concept, if you will, it's a creek of water to the creative mind to like pursue it
Okay.
and find ways to make it happen, if you will. I
Okay.
believe,
Okay, that's a great analogy, man. A creek,
Yeah.
because a creek flows from all different directions, right? I mean,
Right.
it has a bunch of rain coming in from all different directions, and
Yeah.
it's got these valleys that come. I mean, I could go on and on, but a creek is something that yeah, we can. But I don't know. Some people say I'm really creative. I don't know whether I'm that creative or not, but this
You
Go
are
Biz
creative.
podcast. I mean, it was just. I told Ben Robinson, who is owner of Focus
Who
MCO.
I love.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Morgan, and so I told him. I said, "Listen, I got this crazy idea, and I want to start a podcast." And I said, "Here's my background: for entrepreneurs, by entrepreneur. I can't even talk entrepreneurs." And I said that at 9 o'clock in the morning. I gave him, like, I don't know, some ideas. By 2 o'clock that
Mhm.
afternoon, he had 5 to 10 logos back in the email for me. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So from
So
that, I
he's
mean,
part of your partnership,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, meeting the dream. Yeah.
yeah. But the fact of the matter is that I just took this, like you took yours, from this concept that's been weighing on me for a year about doing a
Yeah.
podcast. I've had people say, I've had conversations with lunch and everything. I said, I got this idea. And they said, don't be political. Don't talk politics.
Right.
Don't give your
Right.
conservative
Yeah.
perspective. I said, I'm not going to do that. I
Sure.
said, I don't care. I said, my
But you
business,
should if you want to.
well, yeah, but I get in trouble. So, here's the
Yeah.
deal. In my business experience, man, I've talked to Republicans, Democrats, gay people, non-gay people, Latinos.
Yeah.
The list goes on. So it doesn't matter to me. I don't care, right? But I'm interested
Sure.
in promoting entrepreneurship all over the world,
Yeah.
because if we don't do it, it's going to fold. That's my
Yeah.
goal, right?
Right. Do you know who Gary Vee is?
No, I've heard the name.
Gary Vaynerchuk. He had a book called Jab Jab Punch. He's a New York Times bestselling author, but like he was sort of like I was part of a mastermind group in Nashville where he was sort of always the topic of conversation. Like he was the one of the initial investors in Uber
Oh, wow.
and
Okay.
TikTok. So
Okay.
like he's a big, like vibrant investor. Okay. So
Right.
anyhow, like all these guys in my mastermind group was like, they would just drink the bathwater of Gary Vee, if they could,
Yeah.
So I had this conversation with this photographer that I know for a long time. And he was like, hey, could you take the shirt and make it a shreds? I'm like, sure. I did a shreds thing. He goes to Miami and does this photo at the Miami swimsuit week, and Gary Vee picks up the photo.
Is that swimsuit for girls or is it for guys? I'm just kidding.
It's for girls.
I know, I'm
It's
just
for
kidding.
girls.
Yeah.
It's for girls.
Okay.
It doesn't matter, by the way.
Yeah, right. It doesn't.
it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But anyhow, but the shirt was for this girl who threw it on. And then Gary Vee picks it for his campaign in New York. So all of a sudden, like, he doesn't know who I am, but like my art is now in his image for his campaign.
Wow.
And so I screenshot him like texting the photographer, like, this is amazing. I sent it to all my mastermind guys. And I was like, bitches, I'm I'm closer to Gary Vee than any of you all. And I wasn't not even trying, So all that to say, our pursuit is important. Our pursuit is in service to our purpose. As we speak, as we live, it is inheriting and investing in where we are walking toward, whatever we're doing. And that is the gift I feel is my life, It's not music. It's music and it's not,
Well, no. I think I talked to a friend of mine. I did some consulting for him and raised some money for him and stuff like that. And so, but I told him about my podcast, and he goes, you know what? He said, that's right up your alley. He said, you don't know when to shut up. All you do is talk. And he said, it's awesome. He said, I'm very proud of you. And he's on up there, but he's an entrepreneur and has had very success being an entrepreneur. But I tell you, I think you're right. I think it's a matter of movement and understanding the skill set that God's given you in order to maximize that. Here's the deal. I'm doing something that I thoroughly enjoy. And I'm doing it, because I can with Tracy not being well. Okay. And so all of those things factor into what you're going to be doing. And so, the plan is to move forward, no matter how bad things are, just move forward and everything will take place. And again, the other thing of it is too, it's interesting because I think you may understand this, but, podcast co-hosts are hard to get a hold of. Okay.
I know. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. I've never been empty. All right. I'm booked all the way through April.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just because of like you over the years, I've built a network of business people and all you got to do is tap them and say, I know I'm talking too much, but so for instance, this one guy was on Facebook the other day and he owns Fat Patty's here in Ashland and he owns about 5 other restaurants and stuff. And I noticed that he said he was going to be doing customer service. Well, a friend of mine in Florida, Archie Looper, is a corporate trainer. He just got through training the FBI, FEMA, and some other large companies. Okay. So it's not like, he's coming out with his first book. So Archie and I grew up together. So anyway, I said, listen, I said, Scott, you need to check out this podcast on customer service. Everybody that's in business needs to listen to this. And he goes, okay. I said, then you and your partner need to be on my podcast. He said, sure. Call me this week. You know how that works, right?
Yeah, I do. It's connections and relationships.
It is. And I think those are taken for granted when you're in business for yourself. And I think people are afraid to ask for money, or they're afraid to ask for but like you or that Gary Vee guy, I mean, you were like number one now because of what you do. And you did it not with the objective to know him better, but it just happened, right?
It was a mistake that happened to be, this product, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so cool. So how is your clothing thing going? I mean, I see some really good, I wish I could wear some of your clothes, but there's no way I could wear those clothes. Okay.
Well, you could wear some of the clothes, but
Okay.
like a lot of the conversation is about like also me like coming into people's closets and taking things that they have, and recreating them
Oh, really?
to design. Yeah. So like I am meeting a person who can't hire a stylist, if you will. So like what the clothing thing has been for me is like, again, it's about living an inspired life and then creating these inspired moments that I can post, on Instagram. I'm in between homes right now, so I haven't really had a space to like create, but I have had many clients that live all over the country that like, hey, can I send you a t-shirt
Oh, wow.
or send you a jacket or send you a pair of jeans that you can recreate and mail back to me? And I'm like, of course, we can do this. And I think it gets down to, again, living an inspired life.
Yeah.
And so,
Okay.
and also knowing that like it's available whether you're a size 0 or a size 24. Like I am here sort of as this puppeteer to help you feel inspired and wear clothes that you feel excited about.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that's been the gift of this journey of Shreds is
Shreds. I love it.
that like it is informing that like you should wear clothes that inspire you. You should have this outfit that like you feel grateful and solid in. And that informs all of the sort of details of my life
That's
and
awesome.
music and in conversation,
Well,
the fashion part, you
excuse
know.
me.
But,
So when we went to Mexico, I'm this colorful guy. I like to wear pink. I like to wear bright colors,
yep,
and so I bought these swimsuits, and you've probably seen them in catalogs and everything. But there's this big floral, bright colored shirts and shorts and everything. And of course, when we went to Mexico, that's what I wore.
right.
And I mean, I got stairs. I went up on the stage and danced with some girls, and all of a sudden I had thousands of cameras like taking pictures of me. Okay,
Yeah.
because it was just one of those things. But I'm telling you, I don't know. When I dressed, when I was an executive for a nonprofit, I had to dress like I was from New York. Okay.
Right.
Pinstripe, red tie, an IBM look,
Right.
and then as casual dress came on, I mean, I bought Dockers and, all this other stuff, but I think style is kind of like, and that's why I've admired your clothes. And I thought, man, he must be doing
Mhm.
this for like a bunch of actors or something. I mean, and I don't know, what
It's
is it,
not.
1,500
It's not.
bucks for a jacket or something? I don't know.
No, it's not that much.
Yeah.
It's like 500.
Okay.
Like
Yeah, but still, I think that's a good
yeah,
niche, and I love your name, the Shreds, because I
yeah,
think that is marketable. I think that whole thing, with the right connection, again, that could just boom for you. Okay,
yeah, for sure.
because that whole thing about shreds, you could almost come up with your. Anyway, I'm giving
Yeah.
you consults.
Well,
Shame on
also,
me.
like, I mean, my whole branding thing is like my name is SS. So,
Yeah.
like, everything around my branding is around S. So,
Yeah.
shreds or say something or like,
Yeah.
like is all around the S sort of platform, if you will.
No, and
But,
that's yeah.
but the gift about the clothing part is I've had a lot of friends that are on the road with major musicians like, um, Brett, like all these country artists, like who asked me like, "Hey, can you just mail me a couple t-shirts a month, or can you just like
Oh
come in
man,
and like get
I love
clothing?"
that.
And I
Yeah.
was like, "Sure, of course." And I don't charge them the maximum price, but like I see things happening that like they're inspired by. And that sort of like allows me to realize like, oh, you're on to something.
Well,
I spoke to a psychic in November and like she's like, Steven, like your music obviously has like scheduled you to like do things. You're like the Bono of your generation, which I wouldn't
oh.
say that to anybody, but like she said that she's like, but also like your fashion part like is just as big. And so like I don't decline to spend time on making pieces and altering pieces for people and helping people like pick outfits when they're going to the Grammys or going to a weekend in California, like for 3 days for a birthday celebration, So it's all an inspired life,
Yeah.
and I think it
I've,
all just reminds me like what a gift it is, Lauren, that I moved to Nashville for this dream, this record deal on the table. And yet life unpacked for me that I
yeah.
get to experience doing all the things I get to do, and that I'm signing a publishing deal in February, that I'm creating clothing for artists on the road, that I'm traveling to New York or to the Grammys or to London, to
Wow.
write with artists that are
Wow.
beyond anything that I could imagine being in the room with. And yet, if I need to come back to Ashland, I will, and yet hold the same compassion and grace
Yeah.
for where I've come from to where
Right.
I am at,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Stephen, man, I've loved having you on the show. I've loved
Thank
talking
you.
about this. I got to ask one more thing because I want
Sure.
you to get me into the White House, and I want to be a consultant to them in the White House if you can do that for me, because
Good.
I know you were at the Obama White House, and I just
I was.
and so did you sing "God Bless America" to them?
I did not. No, I did not.
Okay, they should have listened to that.
But just
Um,
so you know, I cannot say that my performance with the Obama White House could lead you into the White House, even though I believe that you're a strong candidate to do prominent things in there. Just like even singing for the Prime Minister of Japan,
I know,
what the
dude.
heck,
Gosh.
I could have never imagined that my life would have led me to being on a stage with him and his wife and 33 delegates, and then after I sang him, be like, hey, do you know where Dolly Parton lives?
Yeah,
And I was like,
right.
I do. I'll take you
Jeez.
to her house,
Yeah. Yeah,
So, and
yeah.
then
Your inner
even
circle is
singing,
huge. You
yeah,
know?
the singing for the Obama White House was in Nashville. It was for the director of agriculture and his team.
Okay.
And so, but that was a big moment that I was
Sure.
like this curly haired guy that they had picked to sing for them, to welcome them at the Opryland Hotel. And yeah,
I
what
love
I
it.
know for sure at the end of the day is that I'm just a mirror for everybody.
Yeah,
Just
right.
like Little Richard, just like when I was
Uh,
around Dolly Parton, just
yeah.
like when I was around whoever, I'm just a mirror
Yeah.
of everybody.
Yeah.
And I get to have this talent that sort of contributes to their experience of Nashville. And I was actually on the short list to sing for Obama's first inauguration years ago,
Oh, wow.
before I had this moment with one of his secretaries,
Sure. Yeah.
but I cannot get you into the White
Oh,
House.
come
I'm
on,
sorry.
man. I mean, you know
I'm
what?
sorry.
I'm trying to use
I
my
wish I could.
connections. I'm trying to use my connections now, brother. Get me in that
Me
freaking
too.
White
Me
House so I can
too.
consult on politics real good. So,
Well,
anyway, listen, I really appreciate this podcast. This has means so
it's
much to
been a
me,
joy.
and
It's
we
been a
could probably
joy.
speak for another hour, but we're not going to. And so I just thank you so much, and
Thank you.
it's been a blessing, and we just really appreciate you. And so I'm going to ask you on the podcast to send me a picture because I'm going to upload it today because I'm going to be on the road all day tomorrow, and I usually upload it on Thursday. So if you could send me a nice picture that I could put all over the world, and then with your bio and stuff, and we'll get this thing going. But thank you
Okay.
so much, and folks, don't forget to visit focusmco.com, focusmco.com, and let them turn your vision into reality. God bless you, Stephen, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a privilege. Bye bye.
Thank you.